Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. May I get your attention, please? Up here at the mic. Thank you. Welcome to all of you to Rotary Club of San Jose, meeting number 5,343. Thank you to the Red Badge Committee for being the greeting line today. You have a guest. Could you please bring your guest up to the microphone and introduce your guest? Start with Karen. Hey, Karen.
Hi, President Steve. It's my pleasure to introduce two guests today. First, we have Anna Rudel, Clinical Director for Lokahi, Acupuncture in Willowglen. This is her second meeting. She's interested in becoming a member, and she feels grateful for Rotary because we financially supported her to teach English in Indonesia many moons ago, and she wants to give back. Welcome.
That sounds like a future Rotary program, too.
That's what I thought as well. Next, I have Clay Garner, who's the Chief Information Officer for Mayor Lucardo.
Welcome both
Clay.
of you. Thanks, Clay. Thanks, Anna.
Tim Hagstrom, President Steve.
Hi, Tim.
I have two guests with me today. My good friend Tom Mormon. Tom, in his retirement, is doing community organizing with an outfit called the Industrial Areas Foundation. And he's attended once before pre-COVID. And I have with me also one of our students from the International House of San Jose State. This is Raquel Saarinen from Finland. She was a student at Willowglen Yliopisto, where I spent a winter term. So we've had some commonalities here to consider.
And I'll bet she wins the award for the most vowels in her name today. Even more than Borkenhagen.
Also for having come the furthest.
And come the first. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for coming. And Mike.
Hi, President Steve. I'm very happy to introduce my son, Daniel. Daniel Conniff right here. He's visiting from Virginia. He works in Hampton, in an urban park in Hampton, Virginia. And he's probably unique among all the people in the room today. He lives on a 35-foot sailboat. So welcome, my son, Daniel.
Welcome, Daniel. Smooth sailing. That was a Bryan Adams line. Smooth sailing. Rod Diridon.
I have Jorge Escobar with me today. He's here to see his wife inducted into Rotary. And Jorge is a supervising probation officer. He's also vice president of the Probation Officers Union. He's a bigwig.
Welcome, Jorge. Welcome.
I'm Andy Phillips, previous member here, now a member of the Rotary Club of Woodinville, Washington, where I serve as president because I'm a sucker.
Welcome. I know what you're talking about, brother. I want to thank Bert George for bringing wine today. So everybody give Bert some love. Also, Sammy, our beloved Sammy, for, 20 years or so, has left to go back to work at the Signia Hotel, the former Fairmont. So I'm sure you'll all see Sammy when you're over there drinking and going to banquets and such. We all wish Sammy well. We'll have him here as a guest periodically for lunch and not force him to work. But just a reminder, we don't have any staff to do cleanup now. So would you all please be fastidious and just help bust the tables at the end so that Leslie and Marie don't have to do all the work. So just let's all clean the tables together. It'll take each of us about 15 seconds. Thank you. So I'm sure many of you have already heard, but our beloved Norm Mineta died yesterday at the age of 90. Norm was truly a legend in our community. Probably every person in this room heard Norm tell his story about his baseball bat when he went off to the internment camp. It was one of the great stories I've ever heard. But we will probably devote an entire program to Norm soon. So just be on the lookout for when we do that, and please try to attend. Could end up being when Sal's president. Rod Diridon and Desiree, come on up for a new member introduction. It's ironic that this was right after talking about Norm, because I know Norm was one of Rod's mentors and dearest friends. So, Rod Diridon.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks for the nice comments about Norm. We're all a little bit in pain today, and we'll work that out as we go along. But I have a happy pleasure today. Desiree Laredo Escobar now used to work for me when I was on the County Board of Supervisors. I think she was about 10 years old at that time. She went on to complete her academic work at San Jose State and then become a probation officer and a leader in the community. She started several organizations and she's been on the board of several others. One especially creating peaceful families in the East Side she was on that board. And she has just done profound things in a very caring, gentle way. And I'm so happy that she's joining us in Rotary. Desi, could you introduce yourself a little bit more?
My name is Desiree Escobar, as Rod said. He's been like a mentor, another father figure for myself and my sister. But I just want to say I'm honored to be here. And I was told to make it brief because everybody in Rotary loves brief. And I'm a brief person, so yes, thank you. I'm honored to be here, and I can't wait to get started and working with everyone on the committee.
If you're a red badger, look at your little name tag on the table and see if there's a happy face on it. If there is, stand up and come on up here. If it looks like a happy face, come on up. 1, 2, there we go. You never know what treats you're going to get here at Rotary. So keep on coming. John Kennett's going to come up and tell us his story about his Rotary moment. John Kennett.
So speaking of happy faces, and I'm really happy to be here today. I think it's a great opportunity for people to hear about stories that sometimes don't make the front page of the Rotary News here. So Paul Harris, the founder of Rotary, said that Rotary allows individuals ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And I think that that's what you hear when you hear these stories. In September 2005, Hurricane Katrina roared ashore in Louisiana and Mississippi. The eye of the hurricane went over Slidell. If you're not familiar with the area, that's on the opposite side of New Orleans, of Lake Pontchartrain. 175-mile-an-hour winds, 25-foot storm surge, pushed the lake up and over the berm and into Slidell, where it inundated basically every home, business, and nonprofit that had a facility in Slidell. I had a screensaver at the time. It was a photo that my son had taken when he was on spring break down there. It was across the lake on the North Shore, where all these homes and vacation homes were built on stilts. Into the sunset, it was a gorgeous shot, and I had been staring at that for over a year on my computer. And intuitively, I understood that those homes were all gone. And so I reached out to Rotary International, asked to get contact for the district governor down where Slidell was. He in turn put me in touch with the president of the North Shore Slidell Rotary Club, Mike Rich. And with the blessing of Dick Campisi, who was president, I made a call and got a hold of Mike and said, "Hi, you don't know me, I'm from San Jose, and we're going to raise at least $100,000 for your community, and you folks need to decide where you need to use it most. And our only criteria is that it's Rotary managed projects." So Mike was taken a little back, as you might guess. He had severe damage to both his home and his business. And it was 3 days after the hurricane when I got in touch with him. But a week later, I received a return call, and Mike said, thanks to your call, our two Rotary clubs got together. The two Rotary clubs of about 60 people in Slidell. And we made a determination that our first priority is going to be the Rainbow Child Care Facility that was totally destroyed. We need to get these kids back in so the parents can go back to work. And we also have a school that had severe damage to their computer system. And we'd like to use that $100,000 to do that. Both sides went to work. Here in San Jose, Dick asked Gary Shera and John Baird, both of them are still in the club, to raise money. I said I would take on contacting the other Rotary clubs and different NGOs in the Bay Area and see what I could do about, filling out the need. In Slidell, the two clubs got together and they ended up creating a list of 9 different projects. Everything from the food bank to the Boys and Girls Club, and on down the line, all community institutions that were in dire need of help. We were very fortunate here. Our club gave generously, and we raised $62,000 in our club. I was able to reach out to 24 other Rotary clubs in the Bay Area who contributed. A district in Canada gave us $23,000. That was a contact through another club. And that allowed us to get matching funds of $23,000 from Rotary International Foundation. In total, we raised $225,000. In about 3 weeks. And we built the Rainbow Child Care Center back and gave lots of furniture and other infrastructure items to the other projects that they were doing. John Baird and I were fortunate enough to be able to go to Slidell when they opened the Rainbow Child Care Center in August of the following year. The area was still in turmoil. The 9th Ward in New Orleans was still just brown. And we were privileged to represent this club and the other 24 clubs from the Bay Area when the two Rotary clubs down there met. And Mike stood up there. It was awkward enough to be able to stand in front of the Rotarians, and all we did was give money, and they were doing all the heavy lifting. And Mike said, we really appreciated the money, which I was happy to hear. But he said, what you did for us is that you gave us hope. He said, your call prompted us to get back together. We all had personal issues to deal with, but as true Rotarians, we started talking about what our community needed, and that gave us a purpose, and we all moved forward with these 9 projects. They raised $3 million plus from various foundations as well as from us, but we provided the seed money. And he said, again, the money was important, but the hope that you gave us was more important. So I always remember that when we do projects here, and I'm able to give a little of my time, talent, or treasure, as all of you do, that we provide hope in all the projects that we do, both in our community and around the world. And I think that that's what I came away from, and that was my Rotary moment more than 15 years ago. Thank you.
Beautiful story, John. Thank you for that. A reminder to all of you, I'm going to be president for 6 or 7 more weeks. No standing ovations right now, please. But I'm looking for other people to tell your story about your Rotary moment. So just call me or text me, email me, let me know you want to do it, and we'll bring you up to the stage. So let's ring the bell. Anybody want to ring the bell? Come on, someone. Birdie bird.
I'll ring the bell for $500 for John Kennett after that wonderful talk. I was able to take Cindy from another nonprofit. We won a trip to New Orleans, and we took a trip. Remember, John? I took a trip with Cindy and Ashley, and we went to Slidell to check out this wonderful school that we had rebuilt. And we were able to take a picture of the big rotary wheel, and we felt great. So
way to go,
that was a good moment.
Thank you. Leslie, hold on one second. The bell, I'm bell challenged, so I'm not going to ring the bell. So all of you forgive me for not ringing the bell because it's kind of clunky. But on the Slidell story, interestingly, my second son went down there for a couple weeks. So it's funny, the small world, Bert, John, my son Matt. Leslie.
Slidell Part 3, the last rotoclass trip, we were in Colombia, and some of you heard me tell the story at a Thanksgiving program, but we weren't getting the respect we were due, even though we paid for the trip. A nurse on the trip from Slidell, Louisiana, pops up and says, "I love the Rotary Club of San Jose. The Rotary Club of San Jose rebuilt the child care center and this and that. And more than that, they gave us hope," just to reinforce John's story. It was just gives me chills thinking about it.
Thank you, Leslie. Funny, one of them, just one second, Mike. One of my special Rotary moments was on a Rotoclass trip with Leslie Hamilton. And she had the job of wheeling the kids around in the wheelchairs going up to surgery. This is a cleft palate and cleft lip. And Leslie made all these little finger puppets, and it was about the cutest damn thing I've ever seen, of giving these kids these little finger puppets that really made their day and gave them hope. Mike.
President Steve, do not ring the bell for my grandson, Stephen, who is going back to college in aeronautical engineering and will graduate shortly. He's Daniel's youngest son. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike.
You can really ring.
Thank you, Daniel. Mike Bohr.
President Steve, most people, if you know me as a branding and advertising and marketing guy, but I'm also a co-founder of Liven Up, which is a nonprofit that raises money for low-income kids. We buy tickets, transportation, and chaperones so that these low-income kids can go see a live performing arts show, many for the very first time. Also, the other co-founder is a fellow Rotarian, Nancy Williams. I won't get into the numerous benefits that a live performing arts show has on young people, or how it lifts up the arts in our community as well, especially after the last couple of years. I'm here to report that after our recent fundraiser was held in New York City, we were able to send 75 kids to see The Lion King, which is coming to San Jose in August. And hopefully that's just the start. So I'd like to ring the bell once for Nancy and once for me. We'd like to keep purchasing tickets throughout the year. So if you'd like to make a tax deductible donation to Liven Up, please contact Nancy or me. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So I'll give Mike a ding for that. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Hi, President Steve. I want to ring the bell twice. One for my son and his fiancée who are getting married on the 13th, and one for the bride's father who passed away last week.
Sorry. Thank you, Kathleen. Ring, ring. One more person want to do it before we wrap up? Come on up, Pam.
Sorry, I was debating this or not. So Sunday, May 1st, I hosted the first ever Music in the Valley in District 9. And what Music in the Valley was a music extravaganza of our high schools and middle schools in the District 9 area, all performing on stage, 3 stages, 15 acts. It was fabulous, a huge success. We had about 2,000 people in attendance, and we weren't even sure what we'd get at all. But I just want to give a shout out to all the performing arts people. It's important that we protect our arts. I'll give $500 to Rotary for that, because I can tell you're looking at me like this is a pitch for something. It's not a pitch for something, it's a pitch to make sure that we protect and preserve our performing arts. And please join me next year for Music in the Valley.
Oh, that's beautiful, Pam. Thank you. Ring, 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 ring. I've got 2 tickets here to go see Paul McCartney at the Oakland Arena this Sunday, May 8th at 7:30 p.m. I think face value is about $200. And I'm going to sell them to somebody right now. Somebody give me $150 each for these tickets. 150, how about 200 each for the tickets? Who wants to go see Paul McCartney? Everyone says he's the greatest concert in the world. I've not had the pleasure yet in my life. $200, somebody? Oh, Bert. I can't go, but Bert, do you want to buy them and give them to someone else? Okay, how about $250 from somebody? 250. 250. 200 going once? 200 going twice? Dave, 500. Is that 500 times 2 or 500 times 1, Dave? Thank you, Dave Davis. A quarter of the Beatles, you hear that? So we're going to take this and multiply it times 4. No. So, Dave, that $250 per ticket that you're offering? Thank you. Somebody want to give me $300 for the last time Paul McCartney's going to play? He might have a heart attack and die next week. Oh, is that bad? I'm sorry. 300, somebody? 300 per ticket, going 250 going once? 250 going twice? Dave Davis, thank you. You're awesome, David. Randy Zeckman, come on up. Randy's going to give you an update on ELC.
All righty, ELC. For those of you that don't know what it is, stands for Enterprise Leadership Conference. And we have been putting it on for 38 years, so it's one of the oldest committees. What we do at ELC is we take 96 high school juniors, we take them off to Asilomar for a 3-day event. We split them into teams of 8, 12 teams of 8, fully paid for down there, and they learn how to develop a business from the start. So they come up with an idea for a business, and then they develop it, and then at the end there's a Shark Tank style presentation at the end in front of a panel of judges. So that's what it is. You know, the committee that we have now is one of the largest committees we have in our Rotary, and it's needed. We also pair up with 2 other Rotaries from Los Gatos, so it's unique to be able to work with a couple of other Rotaries. We also work with 27 high schools within the area where we get the high school juniors from to take them on this trip. And so what I share with you is that, from my perspective, it's one of the most impactful things that I do every year. It's really heartwarming, and to take them from the start of them not knowing anything about what they're doing, and the amount of effort and the intensity of the event, and seeing how they present at the end and the emotions that those kids go through is pretty incredible. I would share with you that I cry every year that this happens. So sadly, the past 3 years we have not done it, and March of 2023 we will, and so we'd love for some of you to join our committee and help share the joy with these kids. So there's lots of roles. You can be a discussion group leader, you can help on the buses, you can go help recruit at high schools, you can get involved in social media or whatnot. So the reasons you might want to join our committee, first and foremost, you get to see me cry. None of you have probably seen me cry before. Secondly, you have a real impact on kids that are local here, so it's within our local community. It's very rewarding. You also get to hang out with folks like Norm Holberg or Kathleen Thomas. So if you decide not to join the committee, I'm going to assume it's because you don't like Norm or Kathleen. Well, soon. And so we're helping kids. So I guess that would be, if you don't come and talk to me, I'll also assume you don't like kids. So you don't like kids, probably don't like puppies, don't like Kathleen. Like, there's all the reasons not to join. So come chat with me. I hope you join the committee, and we look forward to put it on again next year.
just a reminder, Urban Vibrancy Institute, every Thursday downtown, bunch of locations from 6 to 8:30. These developers, this is Gary Dillabo, Jeff Arriaga, Eric Glader, they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Please support them, support these local businesses. They're doing this to try to help all of these bars and restaurants that have been decimated by COVID. So keep track of it. Please go downtown, spend a little bit of money. You'll be supporting these vulnerable businesses right now. Next, Elfreda Egan, come on up. Elfreda is going to introduce today's speaker. Also, wish Elfreda well. She's leaving tomorrow for a few weeks in Ghana, and so she's going to take some pictures of all of us down there and bring back some pictures of Ghana and Rotary Clubs there to share with us when she gets back. Elfreda Egan.
Good afternoon, my fellow Rotarians. Our speaker today would be Mr. Darius, Teter of the Stanford Seed Program. The topic would be Building Prosperity in Africa and South Asia with the Stanford community. I'm sure most people haven't heard about this program before. The way I would like to relate this topic to Rotary is that it's a blend between the International Services Committee and the Enterprise Leadership Conference. But the Enterprise Leadership Conference is not for high school students, but rather for small business enterprise leaders in Africa who are trying to transform their business. For a reference point in showing the importance of the SEED program, Africa and India will contribute people to the workforce in the next 30 years than the rest of the world combined. Meeting this milestone will be a challenge and will require a vibrant small, medium business sector. And the same sector that actually was the backbone of Europe and Africa's development. So this is a really huge undertaking that the Stanford Seed Program is undertaking in Africa. Our speaker today is Mr. Darius, Teter, who's been leading the program since 2017. And prior to that, he was the vice president of Oxfam America. In his role in Oxfam America, he undertook regional development, human rights programs, and humanitarian response to natural disasters and conflict. So he is very familiar with the international scene. Before joining Stanford, Mr. Teter also served as president of the Millennium Corporation, which is an independent US government agency. Mr. Teter holds a BA in history from Yale University and a master's in public policy from the Harvard Kennedy School. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Darius Teter as our speaker today.
Thank you, Elfreda. I'm going to risk technology collapse here and attempt to share my presentation with my picture in it. Hopefully you can see me here in the bottom of your screen. So Elfreda, thank you so much. I just wanted to start by saying my former boss when I was a diplomat in the US government with the Millennium Challenge Corporation was none other than John Huco, which I assume is a name familiar to all of you in Rotary. And I've worked in 50 countries and I have frequently come across Rotary clubs, and I love your organization. I love your vision statement about seeing a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change. And I hope what you'll see is that we actually have very, very similar and shared objectives. I'm going to speak for about 15 minutes and then show a quick video, and then I'll be very happy to take your questions. So our mission is to partner with entrepreneurs in emerging markets to build thriving enterprises. And as Elfreda said, you may be surprised to know that companies with less than 250 employees account for 88% of all employment in Europe. In the US, it's still about 50%. Small companies still have something like contribute 50% of labor of jobs and about 58% of gross domestic product. Small and medium enterprises are the backbone of a prosperous and equitable economic system. And in much of sub-Saharan Africa and India, where I work, they're missing. You have a ton of companies with 10 people and a few big companies, and it's really hard for companies to grow to a 200, 300 person enterprise for a whole variety of reasons. And so that was the theory of change behind Stanford Seed, is that we could take some of the expertise we have learned at Stanford and in Silicon Valley on how to grow a business, and we could engage with CEOs and founders of these enterprises and help them build their enterprises, create jobs, and help their economies grow in a more equitable way. And ultimately, we want to impact the world in a positive way. So if this sounds similar to your mission and vision statement, I think I see it that way as well. So what do we do? Our signature program is called the Seed Transformation Program. It's 11 months, part-time. We work with CEOs or founders of companies that have at least $300,000 of annual revenue. And we help them build what's called their transformation plan. And this is a very detailed plan for how they're going to grow their business. And different companies have different challenges, different growth opportunities, different gaps. So the program is designed to address a very wide variety of problems that a business leader might face. We combine Stanford faculty and curriculum from the business school. I'm actually based at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, and we bring faculty to Ghana, to Cote d'Ivoire, to Kenya, and to India to actually lecture live. And we bring the cohort together from all over Africa, and they spend a week with faculty. We also have our own team. I have 30 employees across Sub-Saharan Africa who, between those classroom sessions, will actually go to your company and help you apply the tools that you experience in the classroom with your management team. And that's a key thing we've learned, is being an entrepreneur and taking a great and interesting course is not enough to change your company. You need your team on board, and you need them to be engaged in the program. And then finally, I'll move my little picture over here. We are very strong believers in the power of networks. So we have a very robust and active alumni network, and I will talk about that in a moment. So this is, I'm not going to go through this slide in detail. Think of an executive one-year MBA, strip out a lot of the theory, and focus on applied tools. So in part one, we really ask company leaders to think about the foundation of their business. Do they have a strategy? What's their organizational design? Have they been through a business modeling process? Part two, we dig in deep into their finances, accounting, their value chains. Part three is my favorite part. That's where we identify opportunities for them to grow their business. So this is focused on design thinking, product innovation, marketing, and sales, the stuff that I think Stanford does pretty well. And then part four is you actually build your plan. And you present this plan to a panel of experts, including investors, and it's kind of like your final exam. And if you do all this work, you get a certificate that you've been through the program. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the participants look like. So we've had about 1,000 participants go through the program, and they go in cohorts. There's a West Africa cohort, an East Africa cohort, and a South Asia cohort. And you can see that we have had participants. It's quite a bit of geographic diversity. We added Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. So the India program is now a South Asia program. And one of the few benefits of the pandemic is that we had to go online, which meant we could take a lot of companies from places that we normally don't work in, including places like Sudan. Now we're going back to face-to-face in 2023. And so I think our ability to manage this type of diversity will be slightly less. In terms of the industries that go through our program, it's quite a big variety. A lot of education, health, financial services, manufacturing, and of course, technology is playing a very big role in Sub-Saharan Africa because it's leapfrogging a lot of the traditional ways in which we build schools and clinics and, extended landlines for phones. Technology is actually allowing us to deliver a lot of basic services to the last mile at a much lower cost, all of which is enabled by the advent of cheap cell phones and network penetration. So that's why you see a large concentration. But in general, what we seek are business leaders whose companies make a difference in the world. And the simplest way I can describe that is, if this company grows 10x, will anybody care other than the owner? And if the answer is yes, then it's interesting to see what problems are they actually trying to solve. So we get about 2,500 applicants a year for about 180 slots. And so we try to look at the growth potential of the business, the character of the leader, their own orientation, but also, is the company solving a meaningful problem in the world? Because that's our avenue for impact. In terms of gender balance, about 30% of our CEOs are women. It's 40% in Southern Africa. It's 40% in East Africa. Much harder to reach these numbers in India and West Africa so far, but we're always striving to increase the number of women CEOs in our program. So that's sort of what we do. What I want to talk about now, and I think this is really interesting from the perspective of Rotary International and Rotary clubs, we believe that entrepreneurs are the best supporters for each other. And one of the reasons we feel that way is because we've noticed that entrepreneurship is an extremely lonely undertaking. And you're having to make very big decisions that affect the people in your company, and you may not have anyone you can talk to unless you can find a peer. So we very much focus on peer networking and cohorts working together, and then we continue to engage with them almost like Rotary clubs. Every country has a network chapter to do continuous learning and continuous networking. So just to give you an example, wherever you see a star here, those are chapters of our alumni network that have registered officially as nonprofit organizations. They do all kinds of things. They get together monthly, they bring in guest speakers, they create programs. So if, for example, the Nigeria chapter has created a startup program for small business owners, women small business owners, entirely on their own. We literally have nothing to do with this except to help keep them, we give them a platform on Facebook for them to engage with each other. So these things have really taken off. And for me, it's frankly, it's more exciting than flying a faculty member to Ghana, is seeing the Ghana chapter organizing all kinds of expertise sessions and lectures for each other. And this really came to life during the lockdown, which hit Sub-Saharan Africa very hard. We saw all of these clubs step up and support each other with PPEs, with masks, with short courses on how to stabilize your finances when your customers disappear, and also directly helping each other. So the other thing that happens in the network is, so this is just a testimonial from actually a good friend of mine. He's from Botswana, and he started a mining services company there. The other thing that we do, because we believe so strongly in the power of networking, is that we provide programs for people who successfully finished and did their transformation plan. They can apply for a coach. We've had about 55 coaches. Coaches live in the country. They live in Ghana, or they live in Kenya, or they live in India, and they'll take 5 companies and coach them for 6 months. And they're basically helping them execute on these transformation plans. About 70% of our coaches are retired Stanford Graduate School of Business alums, and 30% are from all over the world. But what they have in common is their desire to share their own experience and success in business with these entrepreneurs in Africa and India. Extremely powerful. And if anyone's interested, we're always recruiting coaches. So if anyone's interested in actually packing up and moving, like Alfreda is about to move to Ghana or visit Ghana, that's an opportunity. On the bottom of this, we also offer internships for Stanford students, because we believe part of our job at Stanford is to also enhance student life. So this year we expect to send 100 Stanford students to Africa, across Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia for the summer to work directly with the CEO, including about 30 MBA students. This is an extremely popular program at Stanford, and we're very happy about it. The one I really want to focus on in a minute is the consulting program, but I'll just quickly, I'll come back to that, but I'll just quickly talk for a second about coaching. So what do coaches do? There's a lot of different types of coaching engagements, but I think these 3 are the key ones. They're supporting their growth plan. So the company has spent 11 months building a plan for going from, $1 million business to a $5 million business. But there's some a lot of detailed things that they got to do, and they need an accountability partner, somebody who helps keep them focused and honest, who's actually been through, a similar journey. There's a sounding board. Many of our coaches actually end up joining the boards of these companies, and they also are there to help inspire the teams. Each coaching engagement is different. Some people are looking for a leadership coach. Some people are looking for a coach on a very specific problem. If anyone's ever interested in thinking about a coaching program, we also have some remote coaching. Of course, this past year was all remote, so you don't necessarily have to pack up and move to Africa or India. But we're going to try to go back to face-to-face in 2023. So this is the program I really want to talk about with you. And Alfreda is one of our seed consultants. The consulting program is basically designed, sorry, let me go back. The consulting program is basically a way in which our alumni, those 970 companies, if they have a very specific defined project that they need help with, they can submit that project to us. And we use a digital platform called Salesforce. And then our network of 300 volunteer consultants can scroll through those projects and see where there might be a match between what the company is looking for and their own professional skill set. And they can then reach out to that business leader, and all we do is provide the platform. We help the business leaders refine their ask to make it clear what kind of expertise they want and what the output will be. And then we let these volunteer consultants and these company leaders meet each other and decide if they have a match. A typical consulting project is a couple of hours a week for maybe 4 months, 5 months. It's not a heavy commitment. And it's typically remote, although a lot of our volunteer consultants end up getting on planes and going to visit the company because they find it very rewarding and engaging to do so. So what types of projects do our these volunteer consultants, I should say, there's about 300 that we have. We're constantly recruiting new consulting volunteers. They are about 30% of them are Stanford alumni, and about 70% are not. And they're from all over the world, but they come with a desire to give back to business leaders in these emerging markets who are trying to grow their businesses. So it's pro bono. There's no compensation for this work. It's really based on the pleasure or the excitement or the challenge or the opportunity to give back that drives those consultant volunteers. There's a wide variety of topics that these volunteers do. Marketing is the most popular, and I think that's because a lot of companies who go through our program surprisingly don't have sophisticated marketing and sales functions. HR is a very common pain point. Imagine you built a company with 25 employees, you've started to get traction in the market, and now you have 300 employees. You would be amazed how many companies that have 300 employees don't actually have an organizational chart or position descriptions. Everything has happened organically and on the fly, and you're beginning to see cracks and challenges in running the business because these basic building blocks aren't there. So HR is a very popular topic where people reach out for help. Finance, of course, where's my cash? How do I manage my cash flow in lean times? How do I manage my accounts receivable, my accounts payable? How do I secure debt? How do I secure equity? These are very popular topics. Strategy. Again, I am amazed how many $3, $4, $5 billion companies, which is really big in a place like Tanzania, don't have a written strategy. The founder has a strategy somewhere in their mind, but the staff don't know what it is. And that is a major detractor to that performance in a business. So just basic things like help me actually write my strategy down, test it, and communicate it to my team so that we're all rowing in the same direction. It sounds really basic, but it's actually surprisingly rare. And then you can see the other topics here as well. We invite companies in our network, our alumni network, to submit project proposals every quarter. You can see this huge lump in April 2020, which corresponds to the COVID-related lockdowns worldwide. So all of a sudden, most of the companies in our program were locked out of their business or unable to reach their customers, and they were desperate. So a lot of this was around HR, finance, how do I deal with all these emergencies hitting my business? So that explains the big lump there. But we average something like 65 projects every quarter are submitted to our system, and we try to match them with volunteer consultants. So if any of these topics are of interest to you and you have a skill set that you would be willing to offer for just a couple of hours a week, we would love to hear from you. In terms of regions, so West Africa, East Africa, and India contribute to the lion's share of the projects that are coming to our system. Southern Africa is smaller because we only have alumni from Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. This is a testimonial from one of our consultants, Indrani Chakraborty. I'll put my face over here. And in general, we calculate something called the Net Promoter Score to see whether our programs are being received well, both by the volunteer consultants, but also by the company. So I'm sure most of you know, but just the Net Promoter Score is you do a survey and you ask people, would you recommend this program? and on a scale of 1 to 10. And anyone who gives you a 9 or a 10 is a promoter. And anyone who gives you a score below 6 is a detractor. And a score of 7 or 8 means you're indifferent. So a net promoter score is a percentage of people who give a 9 or a 10, they would advocate this program, minus those who gave a 6 or lower. So these are really good scores. And what this tells me is that the companies very much appreciate the support they get from volunteer consultants. And the consultants, although they're not paid, are getting a huge amount of value and satisfaction from supporting these companies. And again, I think this is so well aligned with how the Rotary clubs work, at least in my experience. So that's the bulk of my presentation. What I'd like to do, if I have I'm just checking my timing here, I have only 1 minute left. I have a 4-minute video that features one of our consultants. He's an executive here in the Bay Area with Zillow, and he worked with a housing developer in Kenya. I'm just going to ask the host if it's okay if I show that video, even though it means I would run over by 3 minutes. Okay, I'm going to try that then. It's going to require me to stop sharing my screen for a second and then switch you to a different screen. So if you'll just bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to share this video here. And I hope you can hear it.
In urban Kenya, specifically Nairobi, 92% of people rent. So there's a high disparity of people not owning a home. And to put context to that, there are only 25,000 mortgages in the whole country of 40 million people. My name is Ravi Kohli. I'm the founder and managing director of Karibu Homes. We're founded on the basis that there's a huge housing shortage in the country and the region, whereby people aren't delivering housing to low and middle income families. Most of the GDP in the country is generated in Nairobi, over 60%. So if you want a job, you're going to come to Nairobi. But you're not going to be able to rent a house. You're going to have to move into Kibera on the income of the job that you're going to get. Once you live in a place like Kibera, which is Africa's largest slum, the next rung on the ladder to pay rent is years away from you. Our mission is really to provide a housing solution in a community as far down the income ladder as is commercially viable. So when I first heard about Seed was from people I knew from the previous cohort. And when I heard what they talked about in the business, it was extremely appealing because we had created this brand and we had got a track record as a developer. And we were now in a position to start scaling up. But our developments take 5 years to do. They require enormous amounts of capital. So in order to do that, you really needed to have a very clear plan as to what you were doing. The biggest takeaway for me on the Seed program is definitely the fact that I had this opportunity to step away from the business and put everything that was going on in my head down on paper and then fix it as well. The Seed Consultant Program, it's been amazing for us. So my first consultant was Tony Small from Zillow International. Zillow is one of the largest real estate firms in the US. I think they probably handle 1 million inquiries a month or something of that nature.
My name is Tony Small, and I was a consultant for Stanford Seed. I contacted the alumni network. They reached out to me and said, hey, here's a really interesting program. So as I learned more, I just became really fascinated by the idea of being able to help a business in Africa and help it succeed and leverage my expertise in that area. I worked for Karibu Homes for about 4 months, and we would exchange emails every week. We'd have a standing daily meeting, and that combination of email and virtual meetings led to, I think, a lot of really productive outcomes.
My sales manager, Veronica, had him every Saturday for 2 hours on Skype and rejigged our entire commission and bonus structure for the team. There's no way that we could have accessed that kind of information without the Seed network.
They hadn't really thought critically about the flow and the process from when a consumer would go on their website and express interest and everything that would happen after that. And there wasn't, for example, a structure around the responsiveness to the lead, how they would manage it, how they would track it. And by implementing some of our recommendations, they were able to dramatically increase the value that they got of the leads that they were getting.
We've started collecting big data in a much more intelligent way. Now the whole team, when we talk about things, are looking at data as opposed to speculatively hoping for the best, like, let's put a billboard on Gong Road. And now it's, why? Is there a reason? Oh yeah, because it looks like we've just had about 100 inquiries on Facebook from that area. It's brilliant. The consultants are something that we'll consistently use.
One of the really great things Seed does is they actually give you a whole menu of consulting projects from which to choose. You get to see this list of all the challenges that these companies in Africa and other locations are facing, and you really get to pick the ones that are best suited for your skills and your experience and your interests. I just recommend doing it. It's super fun, very rewarding. It's a really great use of time. It's a really great way to just, give to the community and help other companies grow and be more successful.
Thank you very much. That's my presentation. The punchline is that Seed could not do a fraction of what we do without volunteers, and that includes hundreds of consultants, 55 coaches over the past 4 years, about 300 students over the past 3 years. And we actually calculate the hours of volunteership to support our programs, and it's something on the order of 80,000 volunteer hours have supported us in supporting these founders and CEOs across Sub-Saharan Africa and India. So thank you for your time. I'm very happy to answer questions. I'm in your hands.
Thank you, Darius. We are going to do some questions. Carl Salas, you want to come up? Alfreda, come on up. You can take my mic here and manage the questions. Carl's going to manage questions that come from Zoom, so he and Alfreda will do this together. And we've got 33 people on Zoom, so those of you on Zoom are welcome. And Alfreda.
So my name is Steve Prouty. I'm a lifelong banker.
Excuse me.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Please, if we have red badges in the room,
yes,
you have the first priority. So red badges, please.
Absolutely. Okay. So, lifelong banker, one of the interesting statements that gentleman made was that there were 25,000 mortgages in this whole country. Can you talk about what the capital markets are like in Africa and Southeast Asia? Because we know how capital markets have allowed entrepreneurship here in the U.S.
It's a great question. They're very underdeveloped in most countries. So just to give you an example, one of the biggest challenges to getting equity investment in your business is that there is no way to have a liquidity event. There's no, you don't go public. That's not your exit, right? So and the capital markets are fairly undeveloped. Mortgage underwriting is an undeveloped business. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One reason is security of tenure and property rights. Property registries, cadastral registries, not very well developed. But also, frankly, what I've seen, particularly in East Africa, the banks are not incentivized to do they consider a mortgage a small loan. The government is actually crowding out a lot of private borrowing by issuing government treasury bills, which are relatively low risk and a decent return. So honestly, the banks are kind of lazy about chasing small loan business. And it's true for mortgages, but it's also true if I have a $1 million company and I want to borrow $250,000 to add a new warehouse or a factory, I'm going to pay exorbitant interest rates. It's almost impossible to get reasonably priced financing to grow my SME. It's a major problem, and there's a lot of structural issues lying underneath that. If you ever want to go deeper into this topic, I'm happy to meet with you.
Hi, I was wondering if you work with NGOs or exclusively with the private sector?
So, great question. We work with, for our teaching, we work with some international organizations. So we work with the International Finance Corporation, which is not technically an NGO, but it's not a profit-making institution in that sense. And they teach a lot of our stuff on family business governance. The other thing we do is we do accept social enterprises into the program. And when I say social enterprise, I mean a company that their purpose for existing is to solve an important social or environmental problem. And they're trying to do it commercially. So they are charging money for their services. Those services have a specific, like their mission statement is to solve this important social environmental problem. The difference between a social enterprise and a purely commercial enterprise is that the owners are not taking out dividends or profits. All profits are plowed back into expanding the impact of the enterprise. And so we do take them. Typically about 15 to 20% of the companies that go in our program are registered as beneficial corporations or nonprofits. The key thing for us is that they have to be actually charging for their service, because so much of our program is designed for how you run a business more efficiently. It can be the business of education. It can be the business of health to the poor. It can be the business of, cleaning up the streets, but it needs to have an actual revenue model and a way in which, people can act as managers, as opposed to a lot of NGOs which rely 100% on grants from third parties.
Okay. All right. My question is, I have a business partner. You probably know the famous singer Stevie Wonder, and we are trying to go to Ghana actually to have a bigger kind of a business. How could your company help us?
So we are taking applications for our program right now through June 1st. But the one key thing is that we work with companies that are actually registered within Sub-Saharan Africa or India, and that their primary business activities are in those regions. So I'm not sure if your company would qualify, but I can direct you to our application page and you can read through the criteria there. The other thing that we've instituted is minimum revenue of $300,000 US dollars per annum, because what we found is that companies smaller than that really struggle with this program because it's very intensive and hands-on.
Kathleen Wright asked, and I think you've answered this, but you need to restate it. Do consultants have to be Stanford alums? I'm going to
Absolutely not.
Okay, and I'm going to expand that. Do you mind, of those consultants, how many actually travel to Africa and how many work just with the Zoom platform?
The sad thing is I don't know the answer, because we make the matches and we get back reports on how the program is going. So progress reports and completion reports. But consultants who choose to go and visit these companies do so entirely of their own volition. So we hear about it, but we don't have a way to count them. But I'm going to take your question back to Joanna Hawk, who runs that program, because I think it's a great question.
Okay, that was the last question. Thank you very much, Darius.
Thanks, everybody.
May I ask one more question?
Wonderful presentation.
May I ask one more question?
We will be making a donation to Oxfam on your behalf.
Wow, that's fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you in Ghana.
And thanks to Alfreda. Good luck on your trip. And Steve Prouty, lightning round. Quick question,
Yeah,
Darius.
just quick question.
Hold on, Steve. Hold on just a moment. This is Darius. Going to be a quick question and a quick answer, please.
Okay.
So you talked about government. I was talking about the capital markets, and you talked about governments crowding out business capital. How, in the markets you're working in, is the rule of law effective? Because we know, like in Central America now, it's just so difficult.
Nigeria very far ahead of the game in banking, and I think the rule of law in banking-related matters works pretty well. Same in Kenya. The main issue is how long will it take if you have a dispute that needs to be resolved by the judicial system? What if it takes 5 years, right? So you don't even want to deal with, like, the law may be there, but it may be so painful to actually apply it that you'd rather just not do that. So there's that risk. There's a lot more. Again, I'd love, if you want to chat sometime, reach out to me and we can go deep on this. Thank you.
Thank you again, Darius. A friendly reminder, next week our speaker is Garrick Percival from San Jose State University, speaking on local politics in 2022. And I want to thank all of you for the beautiful stories, John Kennett, Alfreda, and also your incredible generosity this week and every week. Meeting adjourned.